Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is the Super Bowl, kind of. Last night, the New England Patriots played the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles won. It was huge. It was their first Super Bowl win ever. And in response to this big win, a good amount of people just went batshit crazy in Philadelphia. You had around 100,000 people in the streets. There were just these pockets of craziness and destruction. Myself and around 10,000 other people were listening to the live police scanner in Philadelphia.
We have a large secondary crowd forming at Frankfurt and St. Vincent, chanting "Free Meat Mills" and throwing bottles and cans.
And the video is coming out of this thing. You had people flipping cars, fires being set in the middle of the street, people tearing down light poles, then crowds carrying around parts of the light poles, some people looting, destroying property, these geniuses on top of this fucking awning. You had some people jumping, then the thing just collapsed. There was a video of a guy eating horse shit and people cheering him on. I mean, what we were seeing in a good number of places was a riot. But I also want to point out and give props to the people that weren't being a part of this. And Adam Ferrone of Barstool Sports filmed a lot of it. You had people chasing away looters. You had some fans pleading that we're better than this. So with that said, I'll say congratulations to the Eagles. Good job to those trying to defend their city. And to the people destroying their own city because their fucking team won, you're a fucking idiot. Fantastic job looking like the asshole you are. Then we have some YouTube news, some awesome, some interesting / concerning. To start off with the awesome, I want to talk about KSI and Joe Weller. If you do not know, they are massive creators on the platform. On Saturday, they had a live stream boxing match. They've been hyping it up for months. I don't care about any of the drama stuff, whether it's fake or real or any of the build-up. What I care about is that when they live streamed it at the height of it, they had 1.6 million concurrent viewers. This split between the two main live streams on their channels, the VOD, the video on demand of those live streams after the fact. As of recording this video, 20.8 million views. And those are just purely insane and amazing numbers. And regardless of who won, KSI did win the fight. This is a big moment. This is a big moment further legitimizing what is happening online, the people that are behind it. Massive. So congrats and props to both those guys. And the other bit of YouTube news actually has to do with news itself. YouTube announcing that if a news publisher is funded in part or in whole by a government, they will now put a disclaimer underneath that video. And so there are people that are happy, but then also people that are very concerned. A lot of people view news that is funded by a government to just be a propaganda machine. Russia Today, RT, has blown up on YouTube. They have 2.2 billion views. For transparency's sake, that now gets a disclaimer. AJ Plus, Al Jazeera Plus, that will now get a disclaimer since they are completely funded by Qatar. And so there are a lot of people cheering this move, saying that it helps transparency, it helps show people that maybe they should also look at other sources if they're watching this video. But you also have people concerned because it's taking something like Russia Today and putting it essentially in the same category as a PBS or a CBC. And understandably, PBS has some concerns with that. A spokesperson of theirs saying, PBS and its member stations receive a small percentage of funding from the federal government. The majority of funding comes from private donations. More importantly, PBS is an independent, private, not-for-profit corporation, not a state broadcaster. YouTube's proposed labeling could wrongly imply that the government has influence over PBS content, which is prohibited by statute. Now, on that point, I will say that there is a difference in the disclaimer. Russia Today gets the disclaimer, RT is funded in whole or in part by the Russian government, whereas PBS gets the disclaimer, publicly funded American broadcaster, which PBS is concerned is still too vague. Their concern seeming to be YouTube's creating a situation where now they have to educate the viewer on something that's underneath all of their videos. But with all of that said, I do want to pass the question off to you. Do you like this move? Do you think that it helps transparency? It doesn't matter? I'd love to know your thoughts. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today and Today in Awesome. And the main bits of awesome today, we have our trailers on trailers. We got Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, Mission Impossible Fallout, Avengers Infinity War, Westworld, Solo, A Star Wars Story. And then one of the trailers I got the most excited for was the Cloverfield Paradox. The new Cloverfield movie, not only because it was a trailer, but because they released it that night after the game on Netflix. And I will say, as a huge fan of Cloverfield, I was also a big fan of 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's the Paradox. Paradox is the worst of the three. Now keep in mind, if you are a fan of the franchise, just go in with extremely low expectations. You'll be fine, you'll be good. It answers some questions, but at the same time, a lot of just random stuff that is kind of unexplained happened. That said, I am at a point where I am worried about the franchise. The closest thing I can connect it to is if you were like a big fan of Paranormal Activity, right? Like I was a big fan of the first 3 movies, and each one there was something kind of unique, and then it kind of felt like it was a shit show cash grab. And that's what I'm worried about, and I even feel like I don't want to admit to myself how much I didn't like Paradox, just because I am actually a fan of the franchise and I want the next one to be better. But that said, I'm still putting this in TIA because the marketing around showing a trailer and releasing it the same night, that's awesome. Although, once again, the cynic in my head's like, yeah, it's awesome, or maybe it was their way to get around critics bashing an inferior movie. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret links of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about the Nunes memo. And we talked about the potential release of this memo last week. After I had already finished filming the Friday show, it was then released. If you don't remember, this revolves around Devin Nunes, the head of the House Intelligence Committee, and it was claimed that this memo that he wrote detailed abuses in the use of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court process, specifically taking aim at the FBI and the DOJ regarding a FISA warrant they wanted for Carter Page. And the reason Carter Page matters is he's a former Trump campaign advisor, and it was also suspected that he was working with the Russians. So then, of course, as we talked about, there were a lot of people saying, release the memo, we need this transparency. Others saying that no, that it's misleading, it could potentially be harmful. But the House Intelligence Committee has the numbers, so they vote to release it. The White House, President Trump approve, and they release it on Friday. Now, I'll link to the full document down below, but there are two very different reactions we see from this. We see Trump tweet, this memo totally vindicates Trump and probe. But the Russian witch hunt goes on and on. There was no collusion and there was no obstruction, the word now used because after 1 year of looking endlessly and finding nothing, collusion is dead. This is an American disgrace. Also tweeting, the top leadership and investigators of the FBI and the Justice Department have politicized the sacred investigative process in favor of Democrats and against Republicans. Something which would have been unthinkable just a short time ago. Rank and file are great people. What's being touted as the big bombshell moment in this memo by many people who support Donald Trump is around McCabe. The memo claims that then Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe told the House Intelligence Committee that no FISA warrant would have been issued relating to one-time Trump campaign advisor Carter Page without the Steele dossier. That dossier put together by Christopher Steele, a former British spy, who was secretly funded by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign. Also noting that it wasn't explained who funded this venture. But what the other side is saying is that we just have Nunes's word here. The actual FISA court warrant is still classified, and there are sources that said McCabe didn't say that. Additionally saying that McCabe did disclose where the funding came from. So that creates a little bit of a he said, she said situation, and we don't have the actual exact information because that is still classified. Which then brings us to what the FBI said before this release, that they have grave concerns about material omissions of fact that fundamentally impact the memo's accuracy. And after looking at the document, that seems to be that it places too much importance on the Steele dossier. Also, an important thing to note there is that the director of the FBI is not some foreign person trying to attack Donald Trump. The director of the FBI, the head of the FBI, is Christopher Wray, a man that Donald Trump appointed. You have the memo mentioning Trump advisor George Papadopoulos. His mention's important because he's not mentioned in the Steele dossier and he relates to this entire situation. He popped up on the FBI's radar because reportedly he told an Australian diplomat that the Russians had thousands of Hillary Clinton emails. He's now pled guilty to lying to the FBI and he's working with special counsel. The memo also stating that Steele was desperate for Donald Trump not to be elected president. We also found out that there is more information about Carter Page outside of this memo. Outside of this memo, we found out that Carter Page back in 2013 claimed that he was an informal advisor to the Kremlin. Also, on the note of Donald Trump saying that this totally vindicates him, 3 Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee that voted for the memo to be released, they have pushed back against the president's claims. Republican Trey Gowdy saying the document has no effect on potential links between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin. Also saying he has complete confidence in FBI Director Wray, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, and Special Counsel Mueller. Adding, there is a Russia investigation without a dossier. Republican Chris Stewart saying, I think it would be a mistake for anyone to suggest that the special counsel shouldn't complete his work. I support his work. I want him to finish it. I hope he finishes it as quickly as possible. The essence of this memo is something quite different. Republican Will Hurd saying, I would say that the DOJ and the FBI should continue doing their job. I don't believe this is an attack on Bob Mueller. I don't believe this is an attack on the men and women in the FBI. I've served shoulder to shoulder with them, and they are hardworking folks that keep us safe. We're also now seeing the minority in the House Intelligence Committee, the Democrats, wanting to put out their own memo. The main argument from the Democrats is that there are omissions that mislead the public. There's more information to be shared. The House Intelligence Committee is set to vote on whether to make that document public or not. Then that, of course, has to go to the president. When it gets there, we don't know what the president will do. Personally, I will say now that this bag has been opened with the Nunes memo, I think it is incredibly important we see what the other side has to say. I mean, if we're just playing the public perception game, that would look like the president is trying to hide something. Also on that note, President Trump has Adam Schiff in his crosshairs. Schiff is the Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee that wrote the rebuttal memo, and Donald Trump tweeted, little Adam Schiff, who is desperate to run for higher office, is one of the biggest liars and leakers in Washington. Right up there with Comey, Warner, Brennan, and Clapper. Adam leaves closed committee hearings to illegally leak confidential information. Must be stopped. job. And so that's where we are as of right now. Now, this situation changes later today. We don't know what's going to happen with the vote in the House Intelligence Committee, although there are some signs pointing to things looking good for an approval. And even if it is approved, it then goes to Trump's desk. What happens there? We don't know what Trump will do. And I will say, personally, I am of the mindset of I would love to see more information so I could see both arguments. That said, I will say I am somewhat skeptical. While I have no doubt that people in the FBI, the DOJ, have their personal preferences, their personal biases. When I look back to what was happening, to say that the FBI was weaponized to go against Donald Trump, it feels like you have to willfully forget that the FBI is also the reason, but most likely a big part of the reason, why Hillary Clinton lost the election. You might not remember, but the FBI was incredibly vocal about everything Hillary Clinton, especially the second time, which turned out to be like, oh, actually, these are all the same emails. Never mind, even though people are doing early voting. And so that's why, for me personally, it feels weird, especially with Republicans who voted for the release saying it doesn't show what a lot of people are saying it shows. I just want more information, but I will pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts around all of this? I'll link to the full Nunes memo down below. What I'm trying to do here is to simplify it for the sake of time and getting the message across. What was your takeaway? Was this huge? Was it a dud? Do you want to see more information come out, or no, they're going to mislead? Any and all thoughts, I want to know what you're thinking in those comments down below. Then, over the weekend, we saw Uma Thurman speak out against both Harvey Weinstein and Quentin Tarantino. On Weinstein, she says she met him after Pulp Fiction came out, saying, I knew him pretty well before he attacked me. He used to spend hours talking to me about material and complimenting my mind and validating me. It possibly made me overlook warning signs. This was my champion. I was never any kind of studio darling. He had a chokehold on the type of films and directors that were right for me. She then describes a night in Paris where she says the two were arguing over a script. He then changes the subject, leads her to a sauna. He's in a bathrobe. She says she didn't feel threatened, but she did say, this is ridiculous, what are you doing? Saying she left, but then said not long after that, she was in a hotel in London when he attacked her. Thurman saying, it was such a bat to the head. He pushed me down, he tried to shove himself on me, he tried to expose himself. He did all kinds of unpleasant things, but he didn't actually put his back into it and force me. Like an animal wriggling away like a lizard. I was doing anything I could to get the train back on track, my track, not his track. She then says at a later time when she confronted him about this, he gave a half-assed apology. Now, in response to these claims, a Weinstein spokesperson said, Mr. Weinstein acknowledges making an awkward pass 25 years ago at Miss Thurman in England after misreading her signals, after a flirtatious exchange in Paris for which he immediately apologized and deeply regrets. However, her claims about being physically assaulted are untrue, and this is the first time we have heard those details. This is the first time we are hearing that she considered Mr. Weinstein an enemy, and the pictures of their history tell a completely different story. So there was that part of the story and response, and then there was what happened on the set of Kill Bill. During the scene where she's driving the convertible to Kill Bill, she found out that she was being asked to drive the car herself. She said she was told by one of the Teamsters that the car might not be working that well, and she didn't feel comfortable driving it. And she says at that point, Quentin came in my trailer and didn't like to hear no like any director. He was furious because I'd cost them a lot of time, but I was scared. He said, I promise you the car is fine, it's a straight piece of road. She says Quentin convinces her to do it, it's going to be simple enough, and then he says, hit 40 miles per hour or your hair won't blow the right way and I'll make you do it again. And she says, but that was a death box I was in. The seat wasn't screwed down properly, it was a sand road, and it was not a straight road. Also, all these years later, we now have footage of the car crash. She is driving down a straight part of the road, but then it turns to the right, and you immediately see her start to lose control, and then boom. Describing the incident, Thurman said, the steering wheel was at my belly and my legs were jammed under me. I felt this seething pain and thought, oh my God, I'm never going to walk again. And as far as how Uma got this footage, she said she fought for 15 years. Initially, she said when she tried to obtain it, Miramax said, we'll give it to you, but you'll have to sign a contract that releases us from, quote, any consequences of my future pain and suffering. She fought for a really long time, and then after 15 years, Quentin Tarantino just gave her the footage. But she said that wasn't the only horrible moment. For a scene in the movie where Uma Thurman gets spit on, reportedly that was Quentin Tarantino. Also, in one of the scenes where she's being choked with a chain, reportedly that was Tarantino. And while it does appear that she has issue with Tarantino, she posted something today that makes it seem like it's a lot more than that. On Tarantino writing, he also did so with full knowledge it could cause him personal harm, and I am proud of him for doing the right thing and for his courage. Quentin Tarantino was deeply regretful and remains remorseful about this sorry event, adding, the cover-up after the fact is unforgivable. For this, I hold Lawrence Bender, E. Bennett Walsh, and the notorious Harvey Weinstein solely responsible. They lied, destroyed evidence, and continue to lie about the permanent harm they caused and then chose to suppress. The cover-up did have malicious intent, and shame on these three for all eternity. CAA never sent anyone to Mexico. I hope they look after other clients more respectfully if they in fact want to do the job for which they take money with any decency. And as of recording this video, Tarantino has not made a comment. But I do want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts on this situation? And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, if you liked this video, you like what I'm trying to do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Join the now over 6 million beautiful bastards who have hit that button and then either forgotten about it or still watch the show. Also, if you missed the last Philip DeFranco DeFranco Show, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to watch today's brand new behind the scenes vlog, click or tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.